Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's Innovative School Models webinar. I am Karen Lawrence. I'm the Senior Director of Networks and Partnerships at SCORE. And we're just so glad you're here. In the next few minutes, you are going to hear from two district leaders who launched their Innovative School Models project over a year ago. We hope that their successes, challenges, and lessons learned will be helpful to everyone here as you continue to work on your own Innovative School Models grant applications for the November and February deadlines. In terms of the agenda, next slide, I'll spend a couple of minutes on context to ground us in the importance of this work, and we'll also touch on how this grant connects to TISA implementation. After that, we'll move into those district highlights I just mentioned, and I would encourage you to please submit questions via the Q&A feature that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. We will try to address questions that you have on this call with those district leaders where possible, or just other questions that may come to mind for you. If we're not able to get to them on this call, we will try to follow up with you afterwards. Finally, after we hear from both of these wonderful districts, I'll share a link to an optional breakout room discussion where you would have a chance as a district leader to share your own thinking about your innovative school model proposal, but also hear from others to get reactions and also just to continue to think about how you're planning, how they're planning. And I think it'll be a great opportunity for everyone to just have that ongoing idea generation with your colleagues across the state. So excited about that at the end. It is optional, but if you would like some feedback or just thought partnership, please feel free to click that link and join us after the presentations are done from our districts. Next slide. In terms of the critical context for this work, we all know that the pandemic has impacted the college-going rates in Tennessee for all of our students and exacerbated long-standing post-secondary access and completion gaps. The Tennessee Higher Education Commission recently released their inaugural college-going report, which highlighted a college-going rate of 52.8% for the class of 2021. By comparison, this is down 4 points from the class of 2020, and it's actually down 9 points from the class of 2019. In fact, this year's college-going rate has dropped below the earliest recorded by THEC, which is from 2009, which was 55.7. If we dig sort of one layer deeper into those numbers, we also see that about 1/3 of Black and Hispanic male students are enrolling in post-secondary after high school, with college-going rates of approximately 37% and 30% respectively for those groups. Next slide. In terms of this particular opportunity and how it really connects to that, the Innovative School Models is a non-competitive grant with an allocated $500 million to support schools across the state, according to some certain parameters. For high schools with over 100 students, there's an opportunity to receive $1 million. For middle schools serving more than 100 students, or for that combined middle school, high school structure serving more than 100 students, there's an opportunity to be awarded $500,000. And for middle school or high schools serving under 100 students, there's an opportunity to have $200,000 in an award from this grant. And again, as we think about the connection to helping prepare our students for the workforce and for post-secondary, your proposal should clearly outline how you as an individual school or as an ELEA will reimagine time, space, partnerships, and modes of learning for students. The proposal has to include a commitment letter or some sort of show of commitment from at least one post-secondary partner and an employer partner. It also must outline a sustainability plan to ensure that this innovation can last beyond the life of the grant. As you think about structuring your proposal, we also wanted to share with you some ways to think about how to kind of bolster the funding streams for what you may want to achieve through your Innovative School Models grant. So in addition to the dollars received through the Innovative School Models, districts really also have an opportunity to consider how ESSER funds could be reallocated or spent to support your work in this space. There's also an opportunity to orient your work around dual enrollment as you potentially look to applying towards the dual enrollment grant, where the state has allocated $2.25 million for expanding the number of fully funded dual enrollment courses, including courses taken at TCAT. There's also an opportunity here to consider how TISA might impact your thinking around this grant. And so wanted to take a little bit of time to walk you through the TISA rules, which were given a positive recommendation by the State Board of Education this summer, where there are rules that really outline direct allocation for several groups of students, including students enrolled in career and technical education programs. Next slide, please. So because these rules are completely new, much does remain unclear about how they will ultimately impact districts. However, we do know something about the approach that we think is worth taking into consideration and helping you think about making connections to your work around the grant. So at its core, students enrolled in eligible CTE programs will generate funding based on the General Assembly's yearly allocation, the CTE program's level, and students' progress through the program's courses. So CTE programs themselves, as you take a look at this chart, will generate a number of points to calculate their wage earning potential, which includes the number of occupations that are aligned to the CTE program, the number of Tennessee regions where each occupation is in high demand, and whether occupations are high wage. So as you kind of think about a CTE program, you kind of can make connections to those different factors about the program to essentially ultimately end up in a level being assigned to your CTE program. So next slide, and we'll show you how that assignment is generated. So CTE programs, after that calculation of points, will ultimately be assigned to one of three levels based on percentile thresholds for all CTE programs across the state. So where programs are sort of more in demand, more high wage, connected to more occupations, those will be level 3 programs and will generate the most funding. Where programs are less in demand, have lower wages, and are less connected to different occupations, those will be level 1 programs and will generate less funding. So next slide. So for each of these factors, in-demand occupations by region, number of aligned occupations, designation as high wage, there is an available data source that can help guide your decision-making if this is something you want to consider, particularly maybe around the sustainability planning that you'll need to do as a part of your grant, as you think about what courses to maybe deeply invest in or create from scratch, right? Build up. What kind of funding might these generate long-term? So there are data sources to help you guide your thinking and look at what kind of demand that occupation might have, where it's connected, and how and the wage earning potential for each. So we've listed those here. These are data sources that you can access. Academic Supply for Occupational Demand report released by THEC, a standard occupation classification and classification of instructional program crosswalk to help you make those linkages between programs and occupations. And then finally, a Jobs for Tennessee wage report that you can use. I do also want to note that CTE leveling by program will be available from the Tennessee Department of Ed every year by July 1st. But if this is something that you want to kind of dig into on your own, these sources are available for you to begin to do that as well. That is the context from me. So next slide, I'm going to stop talking for a little while, but just wanted to set you all up with that. And I would also say that SCORE has pulled together some of these resources for you in our Innovative School Models website. So we've got information about the grant, some links to FAQs and all of those things. We've also have 5 case studies where we've profiled districts who received that Innovative High School Models grant last year. So kind of already been doing a lot of this thinking and this work and even moved into implementation over the last year. So you can read a lot about what they've done and their connections to time, space, modes of learning, partnerships, and sustainability and lessons they've learned. So please take a read through those. We've also created a planning and implementation guide that we think could be useful to print out, take to a meeting with your team, and walk through steps to get to sort of an innovative project that you'd like to write in your proposal. So hope all of those things are helpful. Please visit that website and connect with us if you have questions. But really, let's get to the heart of why we're on this call today. And I'm excited to introduce Kelly Vance to you all with Bristol Tennessee City Schools. And she's been leading the planning and implementation of their Viking Academy. So welcome, Kelly. I'm turning it over to you. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. I just kind of want to share a little bit about what we've been doing, and if you have any questions, kind of help you if I can along the way there. So Viking Academy, next slide. We are a part of Tennessee High School, so we did not kind of break away and create our own high school. We have about 4,500 students in our district. We have 5 elementary, 1 middle, 2 high schools, 1 brick and mortar, and 1 virtual. 27% economically disadvantaged, and we realize that is probably very low reporting especially for our students in the middle and high. They tend to stop self-reporting, and it becomes an issue of a stigma that they don't want other people knowing about. And so we believe that number to actually be a lot higher than that. Students are identified for Viking Academy first by their counselors. That's our first kind of line of defense. And it's because they have been unsuccessful in the traditional high school setting for a variety of reasons. Next slide. So it could be the first reason would be because they are behind in credits, because that as soon as they become behind in credits, they become at risk for not graduating. And then we look at, is it a short-term issue? Is it an issue that's been building? We allow students to have their freshman year at Tennessee High and then kind of go from there. So we give everybody the opportunity to be successful in a traditional setting, but we often find, that's just not the case. Students are at risk because they have anxiety, and our building with 1,200 students is not good for them emotionally, or just they're not able to kind of maintain in that setting. We have a lot of students whose family is not a traditional mom and dad family. They're living with grandparents. We have homelessness. So there are a lot of reasons our students are not able to be successful just in a normal kind of cookie cutter high school, even though our high school is great. Tennessee High is wonderful. Next slide. So what our vision and purpose is, we are an off-site, innovative, alternative learning program for students who just are not able to be successful for a variety of reasons in the regular traditional setting. And we want to find what that student is passionate about and help that student achieve their goals. So several of our students are interested in going to TCAT or going to Northeast State, which is our community college. So we provide them field trips that they go, only 1 or 2 students at a time. You can see in kind of these slides, the one at the upper right-hand side or left-hand side and the one at the lower right-hand side. These are tours. That's the number of students on that tour. We only take students who are interested in a specific area, and we take them and we have them meet people who teach that at TCAT or at Northeast State. So it becomes very personal. We allow them to kind of see things they probably didn't have an opportunity to see in the regular setting. We do a lot with our community partners in terms of even just getting students kind of their first job. What kind of jobs are at a grocery store? What kind of jobs are at a paper company? And we do this on a small scale so that there's a level of comfort for them. I will tell you though, what we're finding is that these students have tremendous, sometimes obstacles that they're facing. And unless someone steps in, these students will become or will remain in generational poverty. That will be their existence. And we are trying very diligently to make that just go, give them another option. Next slide, please. So in terms of how we are seeing or reimagining these areas, so we are still tied to Tennessee High School, our traditional high school, because we share some teachers, we share students, and we share buses. So it's very difficult to be flexible with time when we are tied to a very traditional part of the education culture. So what we have done is we've created Flex Friday. So for our students who do have jobs, if they are caught up with their work, then they are excused on Fridays. Fridays become flexible in terms of what everyone is doing within the classroom, so they can get caught up on work, they can participate in workforce development. Lots of field trips. We've taken kids on field trips where we get on the public transit and we show them how that works. We work with soft skills development. So all of that happens on Friday because that's where we find our flex time. Next. So the space, we were actually very fortunate. I know this is not the case for everyone, but we were very fortunate in that a local business, Friendship Enterprises, donated an unused automotive dealership to the school system. And that was a donation of about $2 million. Another about 1.6 million was provided by our school system, who was already looking for an alternative, offsite alternative location. And so they provided that in terms for renovation of the space. You can see some of the pictures. It almost feels like a college campus. Everything was very deliberate in how we're looking at the space. Next slide. So at the top, you can see what the space looked like. This is an automotive bay, and there were 11 lifts here. On the bottom, that is the renovated space. Our automotive CTE shop at Tennessee High had 3 lifts. And so generally only 2 of them worked at one time. So we have 10 working lifts in this shop area, which is amazing. And it will allow us to also, our goal is to partner with TCAP or Northeast State and provide an after school opportunity for them to use the facility for their programs, but bring that to Bristol. Next slide. So we have, all of our spaces are pretty flexible. This is just kind of the drawing on the top kind of center. We have 3 academic classrooms that are regular size. Because each classroom is used every single period, we have a workspace for teachers. It is a great workspace setup. There are 5 teacher stations in there with their own desk. So a teacher who is not in their room during planning has an actual space to work. We have offices for an SRO. We have a clinic. The cafe area, very flexible wall of windows. We can have classes there. We really kind of looked at, how does this space, how do we turn an automotive showroom into a school? So the entire left side is the automotive bay. On the right side, that is our additional CTE bay. Next slide. So you can see we have just a ton of wonderful community partners. And again, we are working with them on everything from workforce development. We are working with our higher education we've actually just had some really good conversations about dual credit and dual enrollment classes. getting our CTE teachers certified as adjunct TCAT instructors so that we can teach dual enrollment with our teachers, which is a huge, huge deal. And I can kind of talk about that during questions if you have any. Next slide. Again, this is just kind of how we began. It was a huge, obviously huge boom for us when we were donated the facility. Next slide. And again, here with the post-secondary, we have conversations with our post-secondary partners all the time, but the big thing, we actually just had the meeting here yesterday with TCAT of Elizabethton about getting several of our CTE teachers certified as adjunct instructors. So our students will be earning hours, TCAT hours, while they're still in high school, and they're accessing those funds to do that. Next slide. Just some more of our community partners. Next slide. Again, more of our community partners. Yes, very good. Thank you. Next slide. So sustainability, we have been able to use teachers from Tennessee High School to staff the academic areas, and actually also our automotive CTE teacher. We are pulling about 75 students out of Tennessee High School, so we are pulling teachers with them. Of course, they're not, it's not the exact ratio that it would be there, but we have been able to do that. Repurposing positions, we had a teacher in CTE retire at Tennessee High, and they have decided not to continue with that program that CTE teacher had, but to bring that to here, the Career Center, and we're looking at the HVAC, electrical, or plumbing. Working again with community support, community partners to help us fund the facility, not so much the facility, but the programming within the facility, capital, that kind of thing. We are also looking at paying teachers stipends to teach during their planning period. So they are paid a $3,000 stipend to come here and teach during their planning period, mostly for elective credit because our academic teachers are here. And for $9,000 per semester, we have basically an entire teacher because we have 3 classes that are then filled. And we also think that this is going to start paying dividends, financial dividends with TISA funding related to grad rate, related to Ready Graduate, ACT improvement, to show the financial impact that this program will have. And speaking on the biggest challenge, the social emotional needs of our at-risk students are significant, and finding the right people to put in place to support those students, and recognizing and sharing and helping others understand that you cannot have the same teacher-student ratio or teacher or adult to student ratio even with this population to be successful. We've had difficulty finding an HVAC instructor because when you're in private industry making 6 figures, it's hard to pull you away and convince you that teaching for a teacher salary is going to be, the next gig that you really want to get into. Although the need is certainly there. So we've been working creatively to do that. We've also had some supply chain issues, which caused a major delay in getting into the facility we were supposed to be in before school started, and we just got in after fall break, which was the beginning of October. Those are our biggest challenges, but of course, different things pop up every day that we have to deal with. in our situation, those have been difficult. But overall, it has been absolutely amazing. And I do try to share our story with as many people as possible, because we have found such success already with these students.
Kelly, thank you so much. We found your project also just really special because it just really tailored the support to a group of students that you identified as really needing it. And so we're excited to learn about it as well. I'm going to just ask you one question. It's a big one, and you have about a minute to answer it. Based on your experience over the last year, what would you change about your original grant application or the project you proposed? So kind of what's your biggest learning? Is there anything you would do differently?
So I think that we all had specific ideas like going in of what we would need. I think being able to be flexible, and once we started, we kind of let the needs of our students, which has always been, let the needs of our students determine our programming and not vice versa. So create flexibility enough in the plan so that when you get in there, you're not tied to something that all of a sudden doesn't work. So we had things that we thought were going, to go one way that kind of have gone another, which is fine, because again, it's all being driven by the needs of the student, which is important. But things like you can't, having flexible space, if the need changes, you're not tied into that space. We have talked about even adding additional CTE programs that don't require a build out, so that as the needs change, as community needs change, as workforce needs change, as our students' interests change, we can address those and not then be kind of stuck with something, well, we have it, so you've got to take this.
Yeah, I love, and I'm just thinking about how that actually does connect to sustainability as well, like being nimble and able to shift as sort of maybe that CTE level designation changes and your industry needs in the area change, that you can really respond. And
yep.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Kelly, so much. Okay, district number 2, I'm excited to introduce Dr. Teresa McSweeney. She is the Chief Innovation Officer for Jackson-Madison County School System, and she has led their efforts to implement 12 Innovation Impact Institutes, which is incredible. So welcome, Teresa. I'll turn it over to you. We'll get your slides pulled up and get Kelly and I off of here so you can have the whole stage. So thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly, for presenting the awesome Viking School in Bristol. That's exciting. And thank you, SCORE, and everyone at SCORE for inviting Jackson-Madison County Schools. I have given y'all permission to stop me because I love what I do and I love what we're doing in Jackson, and I get very excited and I'm very passionate about it, and I will just go on and on and on. And so please interrupt when you have questions or stop me if I talk too long. I did set an alarm and a timer so that I'll stop. But when we were introduced with the opportunity to write the grant as a pilot, we wanted something special at all of our schools, and we wanted an opportunity for each of our individual schools to have something unique. We have open enrollment in Jackson-Madison County Schools, so any student anywhere in our district can apply to any of our schools. And so we wanted a unique program at each of our schools that could attract students based on their interests, not just based on their zone. So that's how we came up with the idea for the Innovation Impact Institute. So next slide. And the idea of reimagining education was already something near and dear to my heart and to several of us here in the district. We already post-pandemic could see that there were some things that needed to change to meet 21st century needs. So writing a grant that would reimagine education and still preparing students for their future was very exciting. Next slide. We have about 12,600 students, and about 3,400 of those students are high school students. About 52% of our students are currently enrolled in CTE programs. And just to give you a snapshot of what our career tech education looks like, we have 31 programs of study, and we offer 14 of the 16 state career clusters. We have 391 state approved industry credentials in 2020, 2021 that were passed, and it was over 600 the following year. I didn't update this slide, and that was with an 83% pass rate in 2021. And then for 2022, 23, it was about 87% pass rate and over 600. And then we added a few programs. Cosmetology is not an institute because it's not an in-demand career, but it is a passionate career for the principal where we added that area. But biostem, engineering, technology, and teaching as a profession are all innovation institutes that we added as a result of the innovation grant. Next slide. So reimagining education, time, space, modes of learning, and partnership. I love sharing this slide, this particular picture, because this is from Northside High School. I am an alum of Northside High School here in Jackson-Madison County Schools. This is the library at Northside High School from class of 1987. And if you walk into the library today, you will see these same bookshelves, and you will see these same tables and these same chairs. And you might see students with different hairstyles and different clothes, but who look very similar, maybe even sleeping on the table like this student. And the idea is that not much has changed in education and in our libraries. And so in reimagining space and in reimagining education, I think that some things need to change. And so that's part of the vision for the new innovative model is reimagining our libraries as STEM hubs. Next slide. So our mission is to identify innovative practices in academia and in industry and bring those opportunities and those options to our Jackson-Madison County school students. So when students learn, where students learn, and how students learn. And really, when we think about partnerships, we think about from whom students learn. Is it just the teachers? And what is the role of the teacher now as we think about 21st century education? Is the teacher the sage on the stage? Is the teacher the person with all the knowledge, especially when we think about the devices and the technology and the fact that so much of the information that students know and need to know is right at their fingertips in their devices? What's the role of the teacher? And so reimagining from whom students learn, what does the industry partnership look like, and what does the industry partner have to offer our students in what they need to know and be able to do in the 21st century. Next slide. So in imagining our industry, our innovation partnerships, we do have 7 unique high schools, and there are unique cultures in each one of those high schools. So with the Innovation Institutes, we wanted to kind of rebrand the CTE with an innovation focus. And again, always under the umbrella of reimagining time, space, modes of learning, and partnerships. And we wanted to ensure that job market accessibility as well. So in the top right-hand corner, you see our esports arena, and this is our cyber school. So in response to the pandemic, we did start a virtual school. The first year it was a school within the school model, and then we applied for a state number. And then in 2021, it opened with an official school number as a full virtual school. But it is sort of a hybrid model, because almost every day there are opportunities for students for in-person learning on site. And the esports is just one of those opportunities. We purchased a building from Union University that was a repurposed building. It was a former Circuit City building. So it is reimagining space. It is not a traditional school building where students can have a number of opportunities, including clubs, extracurriculars, RTI opportunities, and then of course the esports arena, where we've added a drone program, an Oculus program for artificial intelligence, and then our esports. In the middle picture, you see our students designing our tiny house in our construction innovation institute at Southside High School. And in the top right-hand corner, you see our workforce development center, which is a repurposed space that was a warehouse for our district. It was back in the day a vocational space, and it is again a workforce development space. This is our Innovation Institute for Medical Technologies. And if you hear some background noise, I am in the Workforce Development Center, and we're installing hospital beds in what looks like a patient care center, very much like an emergency room space. Very authentic learning experiences for those students. We hired an industry professional from the hospital in January who is doing an outstanding job and working in partnership with West Tennessee Healthcare in our hospital, again, to offer opportunities outside of the traditional learning space. In the evenings, at least once a month, we have medical explorers in partnership with the hospital to give students opportunities in the actual hospital space. And then I'll talk a little bit about our Loop program a little bit later. Next slide. So our why, and we think that our future adult workers need engaging, authentic learning experiences. And learning leaders need inspirational motivation. And so what we found with our instructors is that we have this traditional professional development, but we needed more inspiration. So we offered our teachers what we call inspiration trips, and we encourage them to think big and to think outside the box. And so all of our Innovation Impact Institute teachers have the opportunity to design their own inspiration trip. And that's been a lot of fun to see what they've selected. And we even have gone on some of those trips with them, which is fun. Next slide. So JASA is our cyber school and it has the STEM focus, and we have the STEM and Digital Entrepreneurship Institute. We have the competitive esports, the gaming arena, and then the drone program. We have our first commercial certified pilot at JASA, and with the hopes of having student certified pilots as well this year in the drone program. Next slide. Oh, and a partnership with the University of Memphis for esports management. Loop, our local options and opportunity program. So Loop started in 2018, and with the innovative grant pilot, and then with the upcoming funds, we have expanded our Loop program. It was initially with Stanley Black & Decker in manufacturing, and we have expanded that to 6 other manufacturing facilities here in Jackson. Stanley Black & Decker is unique because it has a classroom in Stanley Black & Decker's manufacturing facility. So the students actually report directly to Stanley Black & Decker. For their academic, we have 2 retired teachers who work at Stanley Black & Decker and provide the academic opportunities for the students, and then the students report to their jobs. The retired teachers work a 120-day contract. One is a math professional, the other is a reading professional, and then the students work half the day, but they're still on a traditional school schedule. We've expanded that to West Tennessee Healthcare. West Tennessee Healthcare's needs were different from Stanley Black & Decker. They actually needed second shift workers. So what we did with West Tennessee Healthcare is that our students were allowed to report to school at 10:30 rather than at which was basically third block. We're on block schedule, and the school day starts at 7:15. So the students went to work after their school day. So they completed their academics, unless they had completed all of their credits, and then they would get a credit in work-based learning and independent study, and they could complete their second semester senior year entirely off campus at work. And that allowed that allowed us to meet the working needs at West Tennessee Healthcare in the second shift, and then also to just completely shift the school day to a 10:30 to 7 school day. Starting in January, we will have a classroom on site at West Tennessee Healthcare, and then reimagining space in where students learn. We're very excited about that, and expanding Loop to West Tennessee Healthcare for their academics as well. Next slide. This is just an implementation timeline starting in May 2021. I won't go over that, but I'll provide this PowerPoint if you're interested in kind of how we progressed in developing the institutes. And all of the administrators at all of the high schools had input in what they wanted their institutes to look like. Some of the institutes are district initiatives, because we do have the Workforce Development Center, which was already, and it's very innovative. Students from the other high schools can come to the Workforce Development Center. They can either transport themselves or we will transport them. Toyota donated vans to each of our high schools. And so we use the Workforce Development Toyota vans to transport students to the center. And in the Workforce Development Center, we have welding, mechatronics, and then healthcare. Next slide. So one of the reimagining time, we have several institutes that meet after school. One of those is our Green Power Engineering. Green Power USA is a nonprofit organization that sponsors green power electric cars and racing. So that's the picture that you see. The students built the electric car kit and raced their car at Talladega in Talladega, Alabama. They did not race on the actual Talladega racetrack, but they did get to take a photo op. So that's what you see. Within the innovation, one of the things that makes the institutes special is the structure. So you have a student executive council. You have the teacher role shifting to that as of a facilitator rather than a teacher. The students interview for their jobs and their roles. They have specific responsibilities. The students have training in purchasing and sourcing. We have investor meetings to create that student ownership. Since we, within the Department of Innovation, have the grant money, we consider ourselves the investors. So we go in our suits and we sit down with the students and they share how they have developed their institute, and then they do a product launch and a presentation as part of the institutes. And we'll skip over to, I know one of the things you wanted me to share is the partners. So if you want to show that slide, you can. Any questions?
Well, we'll take it all away. We'll just erase the whole thing. Thank you. And you, to your credit for getting through as many slides as you did, and what everyone on the call heard is that they, in 1 year, were able to, get to 12 innovation institutes. So it's okay for you to have a lot of minutes on your slides. It's a lot. You guys did an incredible amount of work in 1 year. I am going to ask you the same question that I asked Kelly, which is, if you could do it again, what would you change?
So we planned a lot. So I would have limited to fewer projects. I think I didn't know any better. So as I talked with my peers and learned that, that for example, one of the projects was from one of the districts was to build a tiny house, and that was their whole project. And that was one of our projects. So, we built the trailer, we built the trailer within our automotive and welding department, and it's valued at $30,000. It's a 32-foot trailer. And now we're framing the house, and we've blacked in the house and put in the windows, and now we're doing the roofing, and now we're to the interior, and we're 1 year into that project, so some districts chose just to do that one project, and that's one of 12 for us. And really it's expanded to 16 major projects on top of implementing Navient's district-wide to bring in that career piece. So I bit off a lot, which is why the superintendent saw the value in creating an entire department and giving me the role. A year ago, we didn't even have a chief innovation officer. So I would encourage anyone who is applying for the grant to identify someone within your district to be in charge of the innovation grant, because there's so much that you can do with, and you can do a lot of projects, but let it, if you can possibly let it be someone's job to bring that focus and do the exciting things. Because I just scratched the surface and all the things, we brought under the innovation umbrella is CTE, computer science, and STEM and work-based learning, all under that one umbrella, so there's just so many things. So
and that's why you were able to accomplish how much you were able to, is you really got to be just sort of in it and focused. And I know
I have a great department.
That is a luxury.
I didn't mention that I do have a staff. It's not just me. I have a staff.
That's true too. That's also an important fact. That is very good guidance. So I Kelly and Teresa, just appreciate both of you so much. Thank you for joining us, sharing about your very innovative work and what you've been able to accomplish, honestly, over the last year, and it is tremendous. I hope everyone was able to take something away from these experiences to support your own thinking and your next steps. As we wrap this portion of the call, I want to remind you about that Innovative School Models website that I mentioned earlier. Both of those case studies that we just had on this call are also profiled on this site in great detail. So you can read about beginning to where they are now, how they got here, decisions that they made around staffing, spending, time, partnership, modes of learning, space. Everything is kind of outlined in a way that we think would be helpful to you all as you work on your own grants. I also want you to know that you can reach out to SCORE at any point for support on your Innovative School Models proposal. My email is on the screen for a reason, and it is so that you can use it if you want thought partnership or want someone to talk to about this. I would be very excited to hear from you, and SCORE would be honored to help you. So at this time, we're transitioning to what is the optional portion of our call. If you would like to join us, we are going to have small breakout rooms where we'll connect you with other colleagues that are on this call across the state so that you can share what you're thinking about for your Innovative School Models proposal, and they can also share back with you what they're thinking. And it's, again, this time for just early feedback, ongoing idea generation, and collaboration. So we know everyone is busy. If you need to drop off, completely fine. If you would like to be in a small breakout group, please click that link. And if you do sign off, I hope you have a wonderful day and reach out to us anytime. And thank you so much for being here.